Hello YouTube, hi, my name is Mark and this is Nixon Motorsports. If you're new to this channel, we're all about motorsports, a heavy focus on racing and exotic cars and much more. Today's video, I'm going to bring you along and show you some of the updates, changes that we're doing to our Formula 1000 race car. Now if you've seen previous videos, you've seen it looking a little different than this. I'm starting to strip it down. Here's why, and let me just explain just very briefly. So, putting a brand new body kit on the car and a new front wing assembly, making a few changes throughout the car. I'll explain throughout the video what I'm doing and why, but you know, I invite you to come along and watch what we're doing. All right, come on. All right, so let me explain a little bit, a little more of an overview, what's going on and why and such behind it, right? So, as you saw probably a couple months ago, I was doing a winter project. I did a fair amount of changes, a new floor, new pedal assembly, and so on, right? So what am I doing now? I just got the car together. So the big item, the big discussion is a change of focus from my end. So I've been racing here at my home track. It's called Eagles Canyon Raceway out of Texas, right? Northern Texas. Great track. This is our home track, if you will. This is where, you know, we reside and so on. I have a lot of time on this track. I'm pretty quick at this track, so it's none of that. My focus has changed now to Circuit of the Americas out of Austin, Texas. You know, so why is that? Well, we're not leaving here, by the way, Eagles Canyon, but the focus towards tuning, preparing my race car, my ability at COTA, which is what it's referred to, is really my new target. And here's why. So, you know, if you saw the video just a couple weeks back, early February, we were at COTA, first time there in 5 years actually. And I forgot how cool and how fun that track is. It's very fast, it's a very cool track. And I have a little bit of work to do to move towards the front. Now, on Saturday, I qualified P4 in my class out of 22 cars, I think it is. You know, that's good, relatively good. But if I want to be on a podium, I need more speed, I need more capability than I demonstrated. So that's the focus, right? So the new target is to see what we can do at COTA. And we'll spend a lot of time, as much time as we can, at COTA. And Eagles Canyon will simply be a kind of a garage prep shop for us out here. You know, installation laps, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit behind it. Now, what you're going to see over the course of the next several weeks, actually, will be some modifications to the race car. And overall, my race car is fast. It handles extremely well, but for a track like COTA, you need to have a car that carries a lot of speed throughout the track. You have a lot of high-speed corners. You do need good balance between mechanical and aero, and obviously the driver has to do his part, and so on. So one of the big changes I'll be doing is put a whole new body kit on my race car. So if you saw the previous videos, this body kit has been on the car now for quite a while. Actually, my plan was to replace this later this year. It needs it, right? It's a little beat up, that type of thing. Now, the reason I'm doing a new body kit, I'm trying to make the car a little more, let's say, aero efficient, a little more slippery, or don't punch such a big hole through the air, to help my top line speeds, speeds in general, right? So that's one of the big reasons I'll be doing a whole new body kit on this thing. That's a big project, so the car will be stripped down quite a bit. Second item, and it's just a normal, typical, I will be replacing my engine. It just needs a refresh. So this motor, I did have a gearbox malfunction on Saturday at COTA. It needs a refresh anyway, so I'm going to yank this motor out. I'll be putting a brand new motor in the car. Again, that's typical stuff. Now, while I'm dissecting the car and pulling parts, bits and pieces off the car, you know, for the big bodywork change, I'm going to be focusing on what I can do to lighten the car wherever possible. Now, look, me, the driver, I have my part to do, so I'll have to focus on just my body weight, strength and such on a parallel track. But on the car itself, I'm going to focus to see if I can shave maybe 20 some odd pounds off the race car. For all of you racers, you know, the more weight you carry, look, it's an acceleration conversation, right? The lighter your race car is, typically, I would say almost all the time, with power, you're going to accelerate stronger, you're going to carry more speed, and you're going to be a lot more, let's say, nimble and agile on the racetrack. So as I dissect and decide what bits and pieces either I'm going to remove or I'm going to update, you know, for weight reasons, I'll call those out just to share those with you. The last item, I'm going to be putting a new, not nose, but a new front wing assembly on the race car. Now, here I have the nose off currently. So my nose components, this piece, the carbon crash structure, those will stay, but the main planes, end fences, flaps and such, that's all going to be updated. Now this is it's a Spectrum wing. It behaves quite well, actually. I like this setup, but the manufacturer, HRP, by the way, is who we use for wings for the race car. They have a brand new, more efficient wing design, and so I'm going to be moving to that new wing design. I don't know if I'll save any weight on that, maybe a touch, but they say that it's far more efficient. So if I'm not as draggy, you know, down the straights or whatever high-speed aspect of the track, you know, that's going to be an advantage. So those are the main items that I'll be focused on. With that, I'm going to bring you along as I can, showing you some before and some after pieces as I move through the race car to get it prepped and ready. Make sense? All right, let's get to work. So I have the car completely apart. Motor's coming out here in a minute. You can tell the car is, yeah, anyway, it's a mess. I just wanted to focus down here for a minute. I have my new front wing. I just wanted to give you a quick little preview of that. You know, so here's my nose. I have it detached. This is the old, it's called the Spectrum wing. It's been a good wing. It's a flat wing itself, and you know, the main plane and so on. Now this new one from HRP looks pretty cool. It's got some nice contours here in the bottom. For what I'm told, that wing, the new HRP wing, is supposed to be superior, producing a ton of downforce where you don't need much flaps, and a lower drag profile than what I've been running. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll get the nose mounted here in a minute, and I'll show you what that looks like, okay? All right, so here's the new front wing mounted on the nose. I have no idea if it's if the height and angle and all those things are right, of course. I just threw it together, right? But you can see what that looks like. I'm gonna tip it up. So from this angle, if you can see that, this is not a straight line wing, right? It has a curvature to it. Pretty interesting. Depresses in here. Very interesting. A lot more surface area on the top. Yeah, this should be very cool. All right, so let's get back to the other stuff. Right, so as I'm getting ready to pull the motor, you know, this is a normal thing. I've showed a few videos on this before. I have not pulled the motor out yet. I noticed when I was getting ready to remove this bar that my differential had an issue. In fact, it was there was fluid all over. I thought it was from another spot on the engine, so I wasn't too worried about it. But let me show you. Let me show you what happened. So I took my differential out. It actually came apart in half, which is not normal, by the way. Here's the other half. This is what a differential, a chain-driven differential should look like. What happened is these bolts on one side actually not only came loose, if I look in here, it looks like one even sheared off slightly. And in fact, yeah, I can see part of it in here. It's probably fixable or repairable. I don't know. So this diff might be shot. I do have a spare, which is good. I'm going to send this thing off to Taylor and see what they can do with it. Regardless of if it can be fixed, great. If not, I'll have this replaced, and I'll have that as a spare, and I'll put my my backup diff in the car. So that's interesting how these bolts actually came loose, which is not cool. I need to talk to them about that. Anyway, just wanted to give you a quick little snapshot of that, all right? Right, so just a quick update where I'm at with the slew of project activity, trying to get the car ready. My next race is May, so I have a couple months yet, actually about 7-8 weeks, but I have a lot of work yet to do. Let me just show you where I'm at. The car's still totally in pieces. I'm waiting for the new bodywork to come in. All this stuff will be ripped off. I'll have to pull the floors off again. I'm going to be putting a new aluminum center floor piece in as well. This one's just banged up a little bit. So there's a lot to do yet, but trying to focus on the rear of the car for the moment. I do have the new, this is a 2022 motor, a ZX-10R, only dyno time on it. So it's mounted in the chassis. I just put the headers on, and I just wanted to call this out, right? So I have a new muffler exhaust tip. Believe it or not, this little piece here, that's a muffler. It's really tiny. Instead of just having the exhaust come up and out, I rotated it towards the rear to try to move it across the rear wing. It's a small little guy. We'll see if it clears sound. You know, decibels, I have to be, I think it's under 103 decibels. So if there's an issue with this, obviously I can put my old part back on here, right? But I'm hoping that this will work. Primarily, it's about a pound lighter than the previous muffler that I had, that's all. All right, so I have the differential in, and I got a couple mounting bolts I got to put in yet, but you can see pretty straightforward. This end plate here is what bolts up to the side of the spar, okay, and that's what keeps it in place. And you can see these are the mounts for the bearings on both sides, right? And they actually then have a slide mechanism. You can see where these are slotted here and down here on the bottom. You can actually slide this carriage that holds the differential, excuse me, back and forth so you can adjust your chain tightness itself, right? Pretty straightforward. I have the sprocket here I need to get mounted. It's pretty simple. Simply will, well, one-handed here, I'm not doing very well, but you get the idea. It actually will slide on these studs, and then I'll put the lock nuts on, that type of thing. So let me finish up with the other bolts and mounting pieces, get the sprocket on, and I'll come back and talk to you one more time on this. Okay, back on the differential. I have the sprocket on. As you can see, I have the mounting hardware. Let me show you this. It's not too complicated. So again, on both sides of the differential, you have big bearings. They're on these mounting brackets that actually pivot inside this carriage, right? So you have to be able to tighten it and hold it in place once you get the tension on your chain. So there's a couple things. There's a long bolt here on the top. That would be an area to tighten up. And then I have these adjusters here that I made. If I can see my finger someplace, where is it? There we go. See this guy down here? So this is a small little stainless piece. It actually has a bolt through the back side of the carriage, and up on this end of it, this is where I have adjuster nuts. So this is what actually holds it in position and allows me to apply tension on the chain itself. So once I have the tension done, I'll tighten up these back bolts, this top bolt, and then of course these lock nuts on that side, okay? Now, let me call this out while I'm thinking about it. So one thing I've done over the years, a lot of guys will run split sprockets here in the rear. And I did for a couple years. I had problems with them, it seemed, all the time. I use a solid sprocket. I do not use a split sprocket. One reason is that a split sprocket can get out of alignment to a degree and cause premature, failure on the chain and the sprocket itself. The solid one-piece sprocket helps eliminate any alignment issues where the split sprocket is. So that's one reason. The other thing that I did is I have my sprockets. So these are aluminum. I had them hardened so they can handle the abuse. Now, before I did that, I used to go through sprockets all the time. The teeth would actually just bend forward, and they were, maybe a race weekend, that's it. These now, I don't have any issue at all. They last for a long time. My chains last for a long time. This is the way to go. Now, the reason it's a pain in the ass to do a single sprocket, what you have to actually pull your axle out if you want to do a sprocket change. You're not able to pull this out, of course, and swap it out with another sprocket. So that's the only negative. If you're changing rear sprockets frequently, then that's a pain in the ass. All right. Hey, the last thing on the differential. So these Taylor differentials do have adjustability on their preload. And it's done by washers. Physically, there are washers that they will install inside the bellows here when they connect this together. And either 4 or 6 washers is kind of the norm. It depends on when you want the differential to start to bite and hook up. I've been using myself 6 washers in the preload for a long time. I don't have any issues. I like the feel of it, so I leave it at 6. So now I mention the preload washers, so they do have adjustability, but clearly you're not going to be doing this very frequently. It's a pain in the rear end, pulling the differential out, splitting the halves apart, that type of thing. So you kind of, it's kind of a setting that you leave for the most part. It'd be easier to actually have an entire other differential assembly on the shelf with different preload settings, and you swap back and forth that way if you wanted to. Hey, so I want to show something as I'm working in the car, getting it prepped. So I have my new motor in here. I have not fired it up yet. My new little muffler on there, which is kind of cool. Here's what I want to share. So I've spent so much time on engines, just having them run purely to warm them up. I was shocked actually how much time actually is on the engine just doing that. It's kind of a waste. Now, Formula One cars and, high-end cars, I don't know, Champ Car, others, IndyCar, they would go through a heating sequence on their engines, gearbox. So they simply roll on track, and they're at temperature. You know, so it made me think about that. Why spend all this time just letting my engine run, burning fuel, which I doesn't really care, but just, I was shocked again, you know, hours on the engine, just getting heat in it and the oil. So here's what I'm doing. Let's see if this works. So I kind of got the idea from Champ cars that I used to have a long time ago. So all I have here on the water system is I have fittings, you know, the quick release fittings, the airtight ones, and I have a small little 2.5 gallon water heater with its own pump, and it's circulating water through the system, and it's heating it to, I think it's 180 degrees, I think is what that thermostat has on there. So we'll see if it works. That's what it's doing. I definitely feel pretty good heat in the radiator, so it's definitely working. Now on the oil side, if I take this off real quick, instead of putting a fitting in the tank or whatever not, here's what I'm doing. I picked up this oil heater element, and it can be submersible just like I have it, and I'm just dropping it directly in the oil tank, and oh yeah, I can feel, from the tank point of view, I can definitely feel some heat. So kind of cool. We'll see. I'm gonna give it a few minutes, see how much heat I get into it, and then take note of that when I fire the engine up. But this probably makes a lot of sense instead of just running, you know, again for hours at a time trying to get heat in the engine. So we'll see. I'll let you know when I get this fired up. So I have the engine fired up for the first time, just trying to warm it up. The new muffler is noticeable, and yeah, surprising. I'm directing air this direction now instead of up. We'll see if it makes any difference, but you can definitely feel it. So basically just walking around making sure the engine's fine. It appears to be you know, no oil leaks, no water leaks, nothing, no fluid, so it's great. I'm just gonna let it warm up here for a second, make sure the water system is it doesn't have any air bubbles in it, that kind of thing. Yeah, I definitely like this new muffler. We'll see if it's going to be quiet enough. You know, we got 103 decibels, right, that they hold us to, so it sounds a little louder. We'll find out when we get on the track, right? Worst case, I throw the other muffler back on. All right, so let me show you what I'm doing on this body kit. I have one side of the car removed here, so as I walk around you can see it's just tore apart in pieces, right? Now, you know, the new engine's in, you know, the rear end, all of this is complete here, but I'll be replacing the bottom aluminum floor on the race car, but I'm really, the big focus here is a new body kit completely. So I have this first side off, and I have a new headrest, I have a new engine cover, new side pods, shock cover, on and on and on. So you can see just by looking here, it's pretty extensive, right? Let me walk over here and show you parts and pieces. I just have them laying on the floor, but these are the new side panels for the race car itself. Extremely light. This is the new headrest. So you can kind of see what that's looking like. And here's my old bodywork, the side that I just took off a moment ago. So, you know, before I keep going, let me talk a bit about why am I going through all this trouble putting a new body kit on the race car. Comes down to two reasons, actually. The first is weight savings. This new body kit is expected to save about maybe up to 15 pounds of weight on the race car. Just my old headrest alone, as an example, is almost 5 pounds, right? So that's pretty heavy. So it will save weight. I'm not sure exactly how much yet until I get it on the race car, but I'm hoping 15 pounds would be great. If I could get more than that, it's even better. Okay, so the second reason, I'm hoping that the bodywork will actually help the aero efficiency on the race car. And all I mean by that is as the race car pushes through the air, if its drag coefficient is reduced, I will achieve greater top speeds, right? You know, and so I'm focusing on improving top speeds while saving a little bit of weight. You know, cosmetically, I think it will look a little nicer as well. The old body kit had a few, you know, bits and bangs and scratches and whatnot. So the entire car is going to be looking a little bit different when I get it put together. Lots of work yet to do. So I'm going to next just kind of set in place the right side of the body itself and see how well that's going to fit. And, you know, I'll bring you back and show you what that looks like here in a minute, okay? Okay, let me pan down here and show you what it's looking like. I have this one side on. Fits pretty good, actually. Did my cutout here for my push rod suspension. Have it riveted in place. Yeah, so far so good. I have to, you know, anytime you do these cars, you know, nothing's exact, right? Everything's custom fit, so you have to do a lot of modifications to get everything to fit. But yeah, I like it. I like it. So that's just one side here at the moment. Right, so progress, you know, with this one driver's right side on, you know, it's kind of taking shape. It looks pretty cool. You know, again, if I'm going to have this painted later in the year, I'm going to have to pull this thing apart again, which is a pain in the ass. But I need to get ready for the May race. So I'm doing some basic fitting here. You can see I need to open that up a touch more and get my mounts in place here. Now I set the roll hoop on the headrest piece. I don't know, you can't quite tell from here probably, but this is noticeably lower. It's probably, yeah, I bet you it's probably almost 5 inches or so lower. So that's a big deal. Let me go over here. So as I'm doing the fitting, I need to think about where and how I'm going to put I'm grabbing a part here, where I'm going to put my fuel pickup piece. So this is the old one that was in the car. It was actually mounted on the interior. I'm going to put this, I think, on the outside. I'm not sure where I'm going to mount this yet and put it, but ultimately I need to, there's an opening here. This is where my fuel hose will need to go to get into the fuel tank. So I need to sort that out. This is the old panel on this side that I have not removed yet, so I need to take this floor section off. I need to then focus on getting this guy removed, and then kind of figure out where I'm going to go from here. Another thing I noticed too, the bodywork here definitely sits a lot lower than my previous. Here I have a hot spot in the race car mounted up here, and then my GPS. I think I'll be okay, and even my rods here for the arb or sway bar, I might have to relocate these. We'll see when I get my other half on here and so on. But anyway, as I was saying at the start of this video, fitting parts and pieces like this takes a fair amount of work. So let me get this side off and I'll bring you back. All right, so let's go over here. I have driver's left off the side panel, the main body panel here itself. Quite a bit of cleanup. You know, these things are not, at least the side panels are not typically removed frequently, right? So, you know, one thing, I mean, you look at this, you know, all the different wiring, you know, everything in here, quite involved, right? But this gives you a good picture of that. So just like the other side, I'll I'll put this piece on. Let me go back over here. I haven't done that yet. I'll fit it like this, get the basic piece in place. You know, I have to do a couple fitting pieces, right, to get it in place, you know, holes like this for the suspension and so on. But anyway, it's coming along. So let me get this other side panel on, see what this looks like. All right, so a little bit of an update where I'm at on the body kit. I have some of my cutouts done, so I'm moving my fuel cell here. Let me show you this, actually. So here's my new fuel access door that I'm using. The last one, I had a little door flap here that opened up. It was kind of so-so. This one actually will bolt in here on the side. I'm waiting for a new fuel hose assembly before I can do that, but that's where that's going to go. So you can see the bodywork sort of coming together here. I have this one side on. Now this side I actually used threaded rivet inserts, which I like. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Look, the advantage of that is you can take body parts on and off all the time. Rivets is obviously something you can use, and I've done that many times in the past. You know, rivets actually, they go on extremely quick, and typically they'll be good for the life of the car. Side panels, I typically never pull them apart. Now I say that because my old side panels on the car, my top half and structure, I was able to take that off easily. Now this is all one big piece. I have to be able to get that off from occasion if I need to get into any wiring within the race car itself. So I'm going to use the threaded inserts, and you know, it makes it a lot easier and cleaner to actually get those panels off when I need to. Yeah, so the threaded inserts, you need these. They're kind of expensive. You need these tools to actually put them on. And if I go down here, you can see here's just a bag of them themselves. So they're pretty cool. Now, I have the floor yet to do, so I'm gonna have to pull off my aluminum floor. So that's coming up. I gotta finish assembling my the suspension. Here's one piece of my floor. This is the new pre-drilled, ready to install piece. So that's coming up. You know, got a handful of things. So it's all those little details. I mean, even my steering wheel itself, with this new bodywork component, it actually is much further back this direction towards me than my previous. Now I could cut this up. I choose not to. I think that would look stupid. But what it means is I need to build yet again another hub adapter for the shaft to bring my steering wheel back a little bit, so I have room for my knuckles to clear here. So, you know, from a driver position point of view, I'm fine. I'll bring it back about an inch. It's not a big deal. But it's all those little things that make this a pretty good sized little project. Yeah, so today's gonna be fun. It's floor time, and what that means, I'm going to pull this aluminum floor off and replace it. Let me show you what I'll be replacing it with. So this is the floor for the car. This is pre-cut, pre-drilled. This is the main lower section of the car. You can see there's a bunch of holes. These are for rivets, and this is the front T-tray piece that will go on the front. I have another part of the floor. Let me go over here and show you. It's not here yet. Should have it next couple days. But this guy, this is all boogered up, nasty. This is the front section of the floor underneath the T-tray itself. So I'm down here. Let me crawl under. So you can see this thing's boogered up a little bit. It's gone over. Well, it's had a couple moments, right, on the track. So I'm drilling out these rivets, and then this aluminum structure, this floor itself, will actually come off, okay? So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Now, as far as rivets, I use a big 1/4 inch rivet gun itself like this, and then I'll be using, it's hard to say, more than likely these smaller head rivets, but I have all sorts of different sizes. So that's that. And then from an epoxy point of view, this is the stuff I use. So I actually put a layer of this Loctite, this 120 HP. It's extremely strong, and I sandwich that between the frame and the floor. I'll show you what that looks like when I get to it. First, I got to get this off and then do a bunch of cleanup, and I'll bring you back on that. Okay, I have the floor off. You can see it's been on there for a little while, pretty nasty looking. I'm gonna have to clean this up now underneath the car. I'll get this out of the way, clean up the bottom side of the car, and I'll actually use a disc grinder, just a touch on the bottom to get some of the epoxy off on the bottom of the chassis. But I'm gonna wanna get that nice and clean and prepped and ready before I put the new aluminum panel on. And you know, I do like the epoxy. I think just it, in addition to the rivets, helps just strength a touch. You know, you could obviously not do that and you'd be fine as well. So anyway, let me keep going on this thing. I'll bring you back. Okay, so quick update. I have the one side on here after I got part of the floor done. Let me go down here and show you what the floor looks like. And I don't have the front piece done yet. I got to pull this little piece off under the T-tray yet, so this thing will be replaced. But you can see the new floor here towards the back of the car. Again, I don't have that side on over there yet. Looks good. I think it's gonna do a good job. So anyway, I just wanted to show you the floor. Okay, so another update on the body kit. Lots of fun, by the way. So I'm working on the right side pod here, as you can see. Basically, it's a fitting exercise, right? So you have to put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. I use a lot of the blue tape for marking different locations where I have to put mounts on the bodywork. So, you know, I use these, I think they're called deuce, if I pronounce it right, something like that. These little connectors here. I use these for all the body kits themselves, body mounts, I mean, I'm sorry. So, you know, these actually, they bolt up against the side or on the floor, that type of thing, and that's how you get these on. So I have a lot of work. You can kind of see where it's slowly coming together. I have the shock cover just sitting here, so this is a new component. Needs to be fitted as well. And then the new engine cover. It's a lot smaller, so I am having to move some things around. My water lines, I'm gonna have to move them inward. Even my wiring assembly here, it's quite tight. My hydraulic clutch cylinder is a problem. I'm gonna have to rethink what I'm gonna do there. So yeah, lots of fun, right? But I'm knee deep into it. Let me keep going with some more of the fitting pieces, and when I take a break, I'll bring you back. Okay, so update for you. I have this one side pod mounted. Now this is the driver's right, so you can kind of see what it's looking like. I'm gonna have to trim some more here around my exhaust tip, as you can see that. I have a couple other fasteners that need to go here for the engine cover. Engine cover is a whole nother project yet, but you can kind of see how it's starting to come together. The side pods look nice. It is a lot smaller opening here, and how this contours in this way. I think the overall frontal impact is probably reduced a little bit. So I do like that. Yeah, it's gonna look like a whole new race car, right? So I'm going to move to the driver's left tomorrow. I need to get the floor on here. I have a new radiator coming, so I'm not going to do anything on that yet. So I need to get this piece on. I still have this front T-tray, the aluminum pan on the bottom that I have to replace. And I have my headrest, small little piece that's coming in here. And then I'll need to make the mounts for that. And then I have a small little headrest here as well. So that, you know, and the shock cover is not going to be a big deal. The focus and effort, though, will be on the engine cover, getting this one to fit. It will make it, it will fit. It's just noticeably, it's a little smaller than my original one I had on there. So anyway, that's what it's looking like. And we'll get with it again tomorrow, and I'll bring you back. Okay, so another day, more work, another update for you on the body kit upgrade. So let me walk around the car and kind of show you where I'm at. The engine cover is just sitting here. I have a fair amount of work yet to do, as you can tell, right? Clearance on the interior and so on, a little more trimming and such. I do have the side pods on, though. I have the shock cover on. So I showed this one yesterday. Here's the driver's right. So that is buttoned up and in place, okay? The shock cover, the new one, is on. I have the antennas mounted as well. So that's actually in pretty good shape. Roll over to this side. Here you can see the driver's left side pod, so this is on as well. And, you know, just to call this out again, so this frontal area is quite a bit smaller than the previous side pods that I had. My other side pods came all the way out here, or at least a lot more surface area out here, out on the front here. What I like about this is it's going to, I hope, be a little less draggy, you know, with the smaller frontal surface area. So this should actually help. I like that. And then working with these little mini barge boards to kind of move air out here, and then this on the outside is supposed to create little vortices, right, to help keep the air attached on the side of the side pod rolling through the back of the car. But it's coming along. So my focus now is going to turn to the engine cover. This is a fair amount of work. And I had to move a handful of things from a new water radiator that I do not have in here yet, but I had to move the rectifier. I had to move some wiring. On this side, I had to remove the chain guard. I had no space for that. And on this side, the clutch hydraulic cylinder, I'm gonna have to change the mount. You can't see it now. I showed it earlier, but I'll have to focus on that mount, and I have to focus on the water lines where I carry the water through the back side of the engine. And so you can see a little more trimming here, of course, too, but and even back here on this rocker. So yeah, fair amount of work. Now on the interior, so I do have, I'm waiting for the rest of the headrest. So I have two pieces that will be showing up here on this side. They'll just continue this flow. I'm not sure how far. They probably go about here, I'd imagine. I have a small little foam Velcro-based headrest piece that will go here. And then I need to build myself a windshield, a little windscreen actually. So I'll use some plexiglass like I've done before. This one has a nice little lip here on the front side, so I'll use that. I'll put some of the nuts in place there, so I can actually, those rivet nuts, so I can actually just remove the windscreen pretty easily, right? So anyway, and then of course I don't have this T-tray done yet, so I'm waiting for this piece. So that will be replaced as well. So Big project. Big project. Lots of work yet. I have about 2 weeks before I need to get the car on the track. So I got a little work yet to do for that. I'm not too worried about it at this point, but I like to get things done ahead of the time, and maybe do a little bit of shakedown track time, you know, before I need to actually start getting on it. Now the car balance, setup, all of those things, I'm not worried about any of that. Now I do have the new front wing on the car, so there'll be a little bit of tuning on that. So just to share, so the race coming up in, what is it, 2.5, 3 weeks from now, we will use 2 days before that race weekend for just car test. So that will be more than enough time. I know this track well, so anyway, we'll use that time. So I'll bring you along, obviously, and show you what's going on there. But anyway, there's the car. So when I get back here tomorrow, I'll continue on the engine cover, as I said. I have it on the ground. I'm not done. I have a handful of projects yet. I'll need another week or two to finish the car up. But let me just show you what it's looking like sitting on the ground. So here you go. It's starting to take shape. You can see I have the engine cover mounted. That was a pain in the rear end. The new side pods, all the rest of the bodywork pieces are in place. I do not have the rest of my headrest piece yet, so that's why that's open. I have to make some modifications to my shock cover, but you know, that's coming along. I made an initial little windscreen. It broke, a little too thin in material, so I'm going to put a little thicker plexiglass on that. But you can start to see the shape of the race car. The new front wing assembly looks quite nice. It looks fast. We'll see if it is fast. But just wanted to do a little walk around here so you can see what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to have to run it with no paint like this for a few months. Sometime this summer I'll pull the body parts off, send them out to get painted, I think. It does add a little weight, but you know, at a minimum I'll probably paint the side pods, engine cover, headrest, shock cover. I might do that and then leave these body panels black. You know, weight alone, right? We'll see what it is on the scales, but paint adds a lot. It adds beauty, but it adds weight, probably about 4 or 5 pounds roughly. So that's what the car is looking like. Well, believe it or not, I actually have the car put together, ready to get it on the scales. Let me pan down here and show you what it looks like on the ground. So let me back up this way and just pan around at the car. Not too bad, right? Of course, no paint. So everything that's black is new, right? So I've talked about quite a few things that we've done on this project. Let me just do a quick walk around here again so you can kind of see what it's looking like. Now I have not had the car on the track yet. Next thing up, I need to get it on the scales, put the setup on the car, that type of thing. But let me just highlight a couple things here. Many items I've already talked about a few times. First of all, if you notice this cutout here, I had to do that so you can actually get a bar in there in case you need a tow on the track. You know, it's kind of a shame, right? It'd be nice if that was solid, but you have to, with Formula cars, you have to have your roll hoop exposed so you can actually get a tow bar that slides through there just in the event you need a tow in. So I have my new little mini dash windscreen, whatever you want to call it, right? This little piece of plexiglass put in place, so that's kind of cool. I have my new headrest in place, nice and light, these side pieces come off. I typically leave them in because I don't need to pull them out to get in and out. Small little piece of foam here in the back. And I have all my new floor in place now, so the front piece under that T-tray up in front is done. A couple little things yet I need to do, but for the most part, it's ready to take on the track. So let me stand back here and just point that out again for you, okay? So it was a big project. It was a lot of work. So I'm gonna get it on the scales here in a minute. I'm curious what the weight is, right? I need to empty the fuel. That's how I measure. And I'll do that here in a minute. But so you know, so next week there will be installation lap next week. So the plan is next weekend, so next Friday, Saturday or something, I'll take the car on the track, just a couple laps, installation laps, make sure no issues, right? Fluid leaks, that type of thing. And that's it. Now, the week after that, in 2 weeks from now, we actually have a doubleheader race weekend. So it should be fun. We have a little bit of work to do. Now the car, I'm not concerned about the balance overall. I say that there is one major change, and that's the new front wing profile, right? So that's quite new. So there'll be a little bit of balance and tuning, but it should be pretty minor. And so not next weekend, the week after that, the Thursday, Friday will be 2 days of back-to-back testing, and we'll use that to get the car ready, right? Fix the balance or adjust the balance where it needs to be, and we'll get a read on was this body kit and this front wing and so on, was it actually worth the time and energy, right? I'm not sure if you could tell through the sequence of these videos. This was a big project. It took, let's see, about 2 months, not every day, but several days a week to get the car stripped down, new bodywork on, get it in place. So pretty big project. Now I'll find out here in a minute what the weight savings is going to be. My guess, about 20 pounds is what I'm thinking, which is a lot. And then of course, outside of weight, then the other question is, how much does the bodywork actually help, right? You know, the frontal area of a race car, you know, when you kind of get down and look at it this way, right, straight on, how much drag does the race car have? Right? Now, I don't know what the drag coefficient was on the previous bodywork, so I don't have that reference, nor do I know the drag coefficient of this bodywork. So what am I going to be looking for? I suspect I will have better acceleration. One, I have a new motor in it, so I'll take that into account, but 20 pounds is quite a bit, so I suspect I'll see better acceleration everywhere, actually. And then my top speed, or speeds in general, should be up noticeably from what I've ran before. Now, how much, I don't have an expectation of what that will produce, but that is ultimately going to be the telltale, was this worth the trouble? Well, tell you what, I need to remove the fuel quickly, and then I'm gonna roll the car on the scales over here, and I'm gonna see what the dry weight of this car is. I wanna see how much savings I actually have. Well, that's it for this video. A new body kit, new front wing, actually a lot of little changes on the race car, all focused on trying to strip some weight out of the race car. A lot bigger project than I expected. You know, this took me almost 2 months roughly to get this done, but I hope you found it of value. Now, I was not able to show you every single step of the way when I'm fabricating or cutting parts and so on. Honestly, if I had done that, the video would have been quite long as well, but Hopefully this gave you some kind of an idea of the steps, kind of a process and what at least I went through to make this change, okay? But that's it for now, and look forward to the shakedown laps on this race car next week. So there'll be a video coming out on that. Followed by then the week after that, there'll be a doubleheader race weekend. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm at my home track. I have a few laps on this track. So I have a good benchmark is where I'm going. So I want to see what kind of improvements the car is going to have. My focus, just to put it on record, I want to see if I can get into the 1 minute 45 second lap time out here. So that's the focus. We'll see if I can do it. But that's it for now. If you haven't subscribed, hit that button, will you? Next time, ciao.